This time I'd like to call to order the Monday, October 7th meeting of the Currituck County Board of Commissioners. At 6 p.m., we conducted a work session discussing the Golden Leaf grant applications and airport transportation improvement program. At this time, we're supposed to have invocation from Reverend Kim Farabee. I do not see her in the audience, so I'll lead us in the invocation. Please stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Father, we thank you for blessing us here in this county as you have Currituck County. We ask for your guidance tonight as we conduct the business of Currituck County. Give us wisdom and help us to be kind to each other and kind to those who are here tonight to do presentations. And we just ask for your blessings to continue for Currituck. And we thank you and we pray it in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I need to add an item to the agenda, which will be item B under public hearings. Action to approve sale and purchase contract by and between Outer Banks Ventures Incorporated in Currituck County for county acquisition of 7,680 square foot lot located at 1102 Corolla Village Road, which the purpose will be for public restrooms. We need to add that as item B, and then I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This time we'll go to public comment. We have Ms. June Raffa with us tonight. Ms. June, if you could just restate your name and address for the record.
My name is June Raffa, and I live on Reggie Owens Drive in the lower Currituck town of Harbinger. We'll be getting a presentation coming soon. I don't know when it's coming on. It's on now.
I think she has it, Ms. Raffa.
The following is a pictorial representation of the lower corridor. The winter view, when deciduous trees have dropped their leaves, heavy vines and overgrown weeds have died, is even more personally objectionable. This is the image portrayed to all traffic passing through, be they vacationers, residents, or possible entrepreneurs and business persons considering relocation to Currituck County or for future investment. Like most property owners of the county, my taxes have increased while my assessed value has lowered. Many years ago, sometime in the mid-90s, I spoke with our then district commissioner, now Chairman O'Neill, concerning the adoption of a revised land use plan and his promise to clean up the corridor. Too many of those years have flown by, and so have any hopes of the tax burdens being lessened with businesses, jobs, and opportunities for our future generations. It's no wonder a Dundridge would approve a junkyard in Shawboro against recommendations of all pertinent county department officials. Collectively, this is just wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Raffa, I appreciate you taking these photographs and presenting them with us, because there are significant structures that need some attention. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Scanlon, looking at some of these photos, do we, and they're down in my area for the most part, it looks like, does the county have ordinances or some mechanism in place to deal with such looks like derelict or abandoned buildings, abandoned boats, and overgrown lots?
You currently have ordinances on the books that will address the vast majority of these items that we're seeing in these pictures. Yes, sir.
What would be the mechanism? Would that be staff? Would that be enforcement? Would it be vis-a-vis the ordinances and enforcement process?
Enforcement.
We actually, several years ago, went through the county and took out a lot of, she's referring back in the 90s, we did several years take out a lot of the dilapidated buildings, but since that time, some that were kind of borderline have now become, as it's obvious there, dilapidated and in need of cleanup again.
Would it be appropriate then at this time for the county to revisit that and to either reinstitute or revisit the ordinances that are in place to address certainly the most egregious of the violations? Would that be something the board would need to do?
Mr. Chairman,
as a vote?
just to add on to that, I had some issues in the Moyock District last summer and previously earlier this year, and I was told from our planning department that it's complaint-driven, so to get code enforcement out there, if a complaint comes in, then it's investigated. It's my understanding.
You know, again, we come back, and that's been kind of one of my pet peeves since I've been on the board, is this whole issue about complaint-driven. I've said before, I personally don't like it because it turns neighbor against neighbor, because people will call up and won't know who's complaining, and it also will precipitate selective enforcement. I mean, you could quite literally have an enforcement officer riding by 3 violations, maybe even more egregious than the one that he goes to vis-a-vis a complaint, and that doesn't bode well for the image of our enforcement or the county or otherwise. So again, I don't know, would we, again, I would ask, would it be something the board would take up to either reinstitute or address?
The board certainly can direct staff to address these issues again.
Well, I would suggest that we do that.
I think also Ike might, not to keep dragging it on, but Ike might want to comment about how difficult it is and how time-consuming it is to get some of these things addressed. And I also would remind you, we had a building brought to us, I guess, 2 years ago. Courtroom filled up, didn't want it torn down, and here it is, it's still there because it was, quote, a significant historical structure. And so there's a lot at play once you start going down this road that maybe Mr. McCree can share with you.
The statutes provide for a process to have dilapidated structures, residential and non-residential, either brought up to code or removed, demolished. We have adopted an ordinance under that statutory authority. So there is already in place for the county a process to go after these types of things you've seen tonight. But the process is lengthy. It does require the building inspector first to go to the site and make a determination that the structure does not meet minimum requirements of the building code. The building inspector then must give a notice or file a complaint and serve it on the property owner. One thing we found in the last few years on some of these we've undertaken is it is extremely difficult at times to find all of the owners, particularly if several of them we've had to have had 15 or so heirs in other states. But once you get service on them, you give them notice that they have an opportunity to be heard in a hearing before the building inspector. The building inspector then renders his decision and gives them so much time in which they have to either bring their property up to code or to demolish it. If they fail to do that, then it comes to this board where you adopt an ordinance directing the building inspector to bring the structure down. And then the cost of that, the county will pay up front for removal of the structure, and then it becomes a lien on that piece of property, and the county then can collect, as we do, unpaid taxes. So that process, while cumbersome, there is indeed a process. It's just a matter of putting together a program and a plan for its implementation.
Well, I would,
Don't they also have a pretty extensive appeals rights as well?
When, again, they have an opportunity for a hearing before the building inspector, and they do have an opportunity to take it to Superior Court, although in my experience, I've never had any property owner take
How about
a matter to Superior Court.
Board of Adjustments? It's
No,
part of the
no,
process?
that is not part of the Board of Adjustments process.
well, I don't,
We had one in Corova that went to Board of
Absolutely. Yeah,
Adjustments
it did.
a couple years ago.
Well, let me step back. There is an appeal, the opportunity for an appeal board. It is to the Board of Adjustment. You're correct.
I just don't want everybody's expectations to think that after tonight, these buildings are going to be gone in 6 weeks. because once the process plays out, every one of these buildings is owned by somebody. They're going to start calling you and saying, that was my great-grandmother's house. She used to cook biscuits in the kitchen in there, and I can remember them as a boy. And I'm just telling you, it's going to be a process. It's going to take some time before all these are adjudicated. So I just want everybody to understand that you can expect some pushback, and you just need, if you make the decision to go forward with it, you've got to stand and say that's the decision, because staff is going to go forward.
Well, I would agree, but by the same token, I mean, I don't know, some of these former dwellings, I mean,
It's obvious.
I don't know that if someone told me that that's where their grandmother made biscuits, I don't know if that would be in her best memory to let it fall to such a dilapidated, and it has a negative reflection on the county, and I think though it may be, and I'm just throwing this out, I mean, obviously it's the will of the board what we do, but you know, I know that it's long, or I understand that you say it's long, but you know, the beginning of any long journey starts with the first step, and I would just suggest to the board maybe we need to start moving forward on some of these.
Mr. Petrie?
I think we used this process to remove some boats.
No, we used our nuisance ordinance to remove
I know,
the
but we
boats.
were able to threaten with liens or whatever and had the boats removed.
That's where the nuisance
Yeah,
ordinance has a
right
similar
there.
process by which you may place a lien on the property for the cost of abating the nuisance.
But the point being is the county moved forward to remove
Yes.
a problem.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, unless there's objection by board members, staff is so instructed.
And it doesn't have to be complaint-driven if we see a
If I, two comments, please, Mr. Chairman. To your point, we just took a building down in the Coin Jock area within the last probably 30 days. It took us 2 years to get to that point. With the number of heirs that were involved with the property, each one has to be notified. The family has rights to come to the hearing for them to decide. It's a laborious process. We did get there, but it did take us 2 years to take a building down, so it is a time-consuming thing. But there's time and cost to it. If the board would like us to engage, we certainly can engage. The second point I'd like to clarify is this concept of enforcement. I think you hear from staff, and we have a tendency to say that we are complaint-driven, and I'd like to put that in context. There are various different ordinances that we have, and we have different processes we follow. When this board approves a special use permit and you put conditions on a permit, the enforcement or to assure that the applicant is abiding by the conditions placed on them is not a complaint-driven process. It is one that we just undertake and do for our permits. There are other code items that we have that will jeopardize public safety or that are just so egregious that they do not require a complaint for us to move forward with them. Generally, when you hear the comment that we are complaint-driven, it's with your more minor code requirements of high grass, yard sale signs that are out. I mean, it's things that fall in that category, the ones that historically we have been complaint-driven. But I certainly don't want to give the board the impression, or the general public, that we won't enforce any rules and regulations unless we have a complaint, because that's certainly not the staff's position of how we handle those.
I have one last request. Now that Ms. Raffa has given us those photographs, I would like for the staff, as they work them, to give us a report on each one of them as to the status going forward,
Yes, sir.
so that we have a reference as to where they're going, because, again, it does take some period of time, and
Okay.
kind of out of sight, out of mind, we might forget it again.
I would just ask Ms. Raffa if she would contact my office. Some of these parcels we're well aware of where they are. Some of them we are not. So I just need to get with her to understand where some of these photographs were taken, so we make sure we can properly
Mr.
identify
Chairman,
the
if
ones.
I may add some too.
Trees lose their leaves, there might be more. This is only from the bridge down, so.
Yes,
The,
sir.
Missed some.
I mean, some of these possibly too. I know there's a parcel on Tulse Creek Road. It's a $500,000 house on 10 acres, and the grass is taller than I am. So some of those possibly could be, bank owned or something. I mean, I don't know. I from looking at the pictures, But like, the banks, they're supposed to maintain those on the foreclosure, and there's a for sale sign on that one on Tulls Creek Road, and you can't even see it.
I've been fighting them for 2 years. so I
Which,
understand.
another thing you got to
It's
understand
been vacant for
is
3 years.
a building may be structurally sound, but it just doesn't look nice because it's not been painted or whatever, and it's not necessarily a hazard. It might just be that it needs to be painted or,
And if that's true, then we do not have any mechanism to go
That's-
out.
Yeah, if
We're
it's
looking
bank
at
owned.
ones- We're looking at ones that the structure.
That are clearly-
the structural integrity is such that
Right.
it generates a public health or safety issue.
The only reason why I said something about, a couple of the ones that she showed with the grass was extremely high, this would be the time of year where somebody could knock that down, where there's not the snakes and other rodents.
I think grass is one of the ones that's covered in the ordinances, I believe.
yeah,
Excessive numbers of unlicensed vehicles,
yeah.
broken down vehicles, that kind of stuff, I think it's certainly part of it.
Okay, anything else? We'll move on to public hearings. A is consideration and action. I guess this is a public hearing to review an application for a CAMA access grant at 1102 Corolla Village Road, tax map 115B, parcel P10, Poplar Branch Beach Township. Would that be you, Miss Eileen? Okay.
Yes, sir. I'll be presenting this one tonight. This is an update. This project's being presented tonight as an update to the Corolla Bathhouse project. And I've put this slide up to kind of give you an overview of where the parcel that we're purchasing is identified here in red. And you can see the Whalehead Club off to the left, and C12 and Corolla Village Road. There's a close-up. Under the Public Beach and Coastal Waterfront Access Program, the county's requesting grant funds to construct a bathhouse facility on this property adjoining Corolla Village Road. In order to complete the application process this week, we're asking the board to take formal action on the site purchase and to adopt a resolution approving the submission of the final application for grant funds. Just a brief history on the application. In February, the county was invited to submit a pre-application for grant funds under the Public Beach and Oceanfront Access Program. The program's administered by the Division of Coastal Management, who will be distributing approximately $3.1 million in grant funds. The county submitted a pre-application in April requesting $180,000 to aid in the construction of the bathhouse. In August, the county received an invitation to submit a final application for grant funds and was instructed to request a reduced amount of $130,000 and to include a 20% match. If the board approves the application for submission, the county is in a position to fund out of occupancy tax. The 20% match has been included in the total construction budget of $609,378. I'll add a few more slides here. This one narrows in. This property is, in yellow, is owned by Outer Banks Ventures. And the red portion of the property is the site that we're under contract to purchase. As you remember from previous attempts to get this facility at this location, it was difficult to find a site that was not in the DOT right-of-way. And over the last several months, we've managed to locate this particular site and negotiate a purchase price with the owner, Outer Banks Ventures, Inc. And the site measures just under an acre at .176 acres. The board approved the purchase of the site at their August 28th meeting, and the county attorney submitted a contract for purchase to Outer Banks Ventures. We're currently in escrow, waiting to close. The tentative closing date is October 15th. We've completed the title work to the property, and we have submitted our findings to the seller's attorney, and we are waiting at this point for him to clear the title requirements that we asked for and set a firm closing date. This slide shows a street view and this is looking east to the ocean from NC-12. The bathhouse facility, proposed bathhouse facility, will sit about halfway down that road on the right-hand side. This is another view. And again, the facility is, we're looking at placing it around in this lot right here. This shows, again, you can see the traffic, you know, how the parking is kind of haphazard in here. So we're hoping to clean that up a little bit as well. In addition to the research that we did, we also met with DOT engineers about possible options to allow the county to build an ADA-compliant walkway from NC-12 all the way to the beach. We don't currently have any ADA walkways in Corolla at all, so that's really important to the locals as well as visitors to the Outer Banks to be able to have that. Included in that proposal, we would clean up the parking, get some additional parking spaces out of it, which would be great as well, as including the bathhouse. The meeting with DOT was very positive, and they assured us that they were willing to work with us to make that happen. So we are excited about that, and we do have some preliminary sketches to share, and this week we'll be scheduling more meetings with DOT, Corolla Light Property Owners Association, Corolla Concerned Citizens, and also Ocean Rescue and any other entities that may have an interest in the facility or be affected by the facility. This is the actual access, and if you can imagine, hopefully, the ADA walkway will run clear out to this area to make along this right-hand side. This is a view coming off, and that's the road, again, going toward the lighthouse. So the facility, bathhouse facility itself will sit down in this area. This is a design, you'll recognize this, it's Pine Island's bathhouse, several years old, and this is kind of the design that we're looking to follow on a little bit larger scale. This rendering was done back in, I believe it was 2004, when we were initially attempting to complete this project. This is a more recent rendering, just in last week.
Wow.
And as you can see, I'll show you with the floor plan coming up. There's another view of it. And this is kind of a preliminary idea with the walkway all the way, if you can imagine, from NC-12 all the way down to the beach. We also have hoped to get a covered picnic area over in this area for Ocean Beach Rescue to use for some of their programming and give them some storage, at least in one corner of the building, to keep some of their supplies so they don't have to continue carrying those back and forth. This is all preliminary. The building can still be modified. This is the floor plan, includes men's and women's bath facilities as well as a family facility. We hope to put some outdoor showers in as well. There's a janitor closet, lifeguard storage, and this can be the outside education pavilion or just picnic tables. This picture you probably recognize from the Alta presentation that was done, which is a good preliminary look at this walkway. And if we can fit it in, maybe a turnaround here and hopefully some parking designated in that area. Corolla Village Road access is the most heavily used access in Corolla. So the proposed improvements would be an asset to the community as a whole by providing the ADA access, Also, facilities to accommodate both locals and the visitors, and also provide ocean rescue some expansion for their programming to take place at that specific point. Corolla was identified in connecting Corolla as a cultural destination that draws day trippers to the park, to the lighthouse, to Corolla Village, Whalehead, the Wildlife Education Center. So this facility would provide a higher level of service to support those cultural assets that we need to do. So with that, we do have a resolution in front of you that is required for the grant. And we are just looking for action from the board to, formal action to take place on the site purchase and adoption of the resolution approving the submission of the final grant application. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions?
Don't have any questions, a couple comments.
Yes, sir.
Number one, I am so happy that y'all have incorporated the ADA piece into this.
Very
I mean,
important.
you know, some discussion we had back in the summer, you know, I mean, it's needed
Yes,
so much.
Yes.
And I am so happy that that's part of it. This has been a long-awaited project.
yes, it has.
And I think it's a good project, and I think it's something that's needed. And I believe, as you said, the CAMA matching is a 80-20, so it costs the county 20% to do this. So I think it's wonderful.
Yes, sir.
I think the the ADA accessibility is a great thing. You see wheelchairs that you can buy that have the Rollies tires on them. I'm assuming Public Works is going to maintain the building.
We haven't determined that yet.
Well, along with maintaining the building, I would like to make sure that the walkway stays, the sand keeps
Oh, absolutely.
cleaned off of it, because
Yes, sir.
it doesn't take long for the sand to, then we just covered it up. So I think it's fantastic if we can just keep it open.
Anyone else? I do believe this will probably be the only sound to ocean access.
Right.
I know it's the only one in Currituck, but I can't think of another one along the Outer Banks.
You have some up in the Corova area that runs from the canals that are right-of-ways, actually roads, but it is,
Yeah,
It
it's not
goes-
real usable.
it's 60 foot.
Yeah,
But, I mean, I think you're correct, to the best of my knowledge.
I just think it's a nice project. I want to make sure it requires a public hearing. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing. I have no one has signed up to speak to this. Is there anyone that wishes to speak that did not sign up? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask the board for action.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion?
I would only like to say is one thing. As long as I've been on this board, we've been working on this, and to see it finally get,
A lot of stops and
yeah,
starts.
to get this off the books is just fantastic. Really is.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item B is action to approve sale and purchase contract by and between Outer Banks Ventures Incorporated in Currituck County for county acquisition of 7,680 square foot lot located at 1102 Corolla Village Road, which is the property where this project will be done.
Is this another public hearing?
No,
So we can have a motion for approval?
just need a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, staff. Y'all did a wonderful job. Administrative reports is video presentation by North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. Mr. Scanlon.
Yes, sir. This is a brief 4-minute video that the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners has submitted to all counties, and they've asked that we play that at your October board meeting. And as soon as it gets keyed up, we'll play it.
Hello, I'm Person County Vice Chairman Ray Jeffers. and President of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. I would like to invite you to join me in helping the NCACC represent the interests of all 100 counties. Our organization is only as strong as our members, and we need every county to be engaged. There are many ways you can get involved with our organization.
Thanks, President Jeffers. The NCACC has been advocating for counties for more than 100 years. And along the way, we have found that the best advocates for county government are you, our local elected officials. That's why we'd like to make it easy for you to help us achieve your goals at the General Assembly. Legislative Counsel Sam Skinner is going to tell you about how you can become involved.
One of the best ways for county commissioners to get involved is to serve on one of our 7 steering committees. The steering committees provide guidance and recommendation to the Board of Directors in 7 policy areas. They're agriculture, environment, general government, health and human services, justice and public safety, public education, and tax and finance. The committees meet quarterly and will consider information on emerging county-related issues. Each steering committee will be meeting in October, and I hope you will consider serving on a committee. You can sign up for a steering committee on our website.
The association does a lot more than advocate for county interests. Another part of our mission is to provide education and training for county commissioners and county staff. Associate Director of Education Jason King is going to tell you more about an exciting opportunity we have coming up in October.
On October 15th, the NCACC will sponsor a seminar on the implementation of the Affordable Care Act and its impacts on county government. This day-long seminar is free and will be held at the Sheraton Hotel in Orange County. We will bring policy experts from the National Association of Counties and other organizations to discuss with county officials the steps that counties need to be considering to make sure they are ready for this change. Elected officials can learn about the policy implications, and staff can learn about the details of implementing the Affordable Care Act. Counties will be impacted by the ACA in numerous ways, as employers, as providers of public health services, and as administrators of the state's Medicaid program. This seminar will help counties understand the issues that could come up as the ACA becomes law. I hope to see you in Orange County on October 15th. For more information about this seminar, please visit our website at the address on your screen.
Thanks, Jason. Another way that we provide services to counties is through our risk management pools. You might not know that the NCACC is the #1 provider of insurance for workers' compensation and liability and property for North Carolina's county governments. Amy Basin, our General Counsel, is here to explain.
The risk management pools were created to help counties and county entities better manage the costs associated with liability and property insurance and workers' compensation insurance. Our programs are specifically tailored to meet the unique needs of county government. We also provide an extensive risk control service to help members reduce their costs by identifying and eliminating potential risks. If you would like to learn more about our pools, please visit the NCACC website and click on the Risk Management tab.
As you can see, the NCACC does a lot for our counties. I hope you will join me this year as we seek to make the NCACC an even more valuable partner for all 100 counties.
Any comments? Move to item B. I had asked the county manager to do a presentation on where the monies come from for capital funding projects, and I believe he's prepared a presentation.
Yes, sir. Okay, here we go. Yes, sir. At a previous commissioners meeting, you asked if I would bring a presentation to talk about capital revenues, where we collect them from, the restrictions they have on them, and how we utilize those. Before I get into that, I need just 2 quick accounting terms to kind of go over to kind of help frame the conversation. The first one is the concept of a fund. It's with a D, not fund. This is the accounting definition. The simplest way to think of this is a checking account. County government, all the things that we do, we don't operate under a single checking account. We probably maintain about 30 different checking accounts. And why do we maintain so many? There could be revenue sources that the General Assembly or this body would restrict on how it can be used. And in order for us to show compliance, we would put them in a unique checking account to be able to document that we are compliant with the restrictions placed on that. There might be services you provide, like the water services and wastewater services, that only the people that use that service pay towards it, and therefore you want to capture the cost to be able to make sure that you've got a revenue that's appropriate to recover the cost of providing that service. So that's the concept of a fund. The second concept is what we're talking about now is what is a capital expenditure. Generally, we think of a large outlay of money. It goes to buy an asset that has a useful life that extends beyond one fiscal year. Multiple years will benefit from it. It doesn't have to necessarily be the acquisition of a new item. It could be the repair or the addition to an existing item that would all classify it as a capital expenditure. For Currituck County, we account for everything that we purchase over $5,000. We hold up into either a capital outlay account or one of our capital accounts. So with that in mind, there's a couple of our major revenues that we receive that are restricted to capital uses. The first one is a sales tax. Although we like to think of the sales tax as a single item, it's actually 4 separate sales tax. The very first one, Article 39, a 1% sales tax, we collect that, and it can go to anything that any legal purpose for county government. It goes into our operations. It helps fund our day-to-day operations. The last one, Article 46, is a 0.25% sales tax. Several years ago, the General Assembly gave county commissioners the right to locally apply this. We have yet to choose this. You have to do a referendum to be able to apply this, and the local voters would have to approve it. We actually haven't done either one of those. What I want to highlight for you specifically is the 2 center ones, Article 40 and Article 42. Both of them are half-cent sales tax. Here's Article 40. This is the language right out of the general statutes. I want to highlight that we are in the second part of this definition. 30% of the revenues that we collect under Article 40 must be used to support a public school outlay or debt incurred for public school outlay under Article 40. Article 42, 60% of the amount collected has got to be used for and is restricted to public school capital outlay or to retire indebtedness to support public school outlay.
Mr. Scanlon?
Yes, sir.
This is in addition to the average daily membership funding that the county
Correct.
gives the
Correct.
school system.
Correct. The second revenue we talk a lot about is transfer tax. I want to highlight that section right there. Transfer tax is restricted, can only be used for capital expenditures for solid waste or county-operated buildings. No transfer tax can go into operations. It's strictly 100% of transfer tax is restricted to capital purposes. Another one that has a capital element to it is the occupancy tax. As we know, like sales tax, there's 3 different elements that make up the occupancy tax. It was approved in 3 different local bills. The half of the occupancy tax, the tourism-related expenditures, has a phrase right there. It includes, you are allowed to, you don't have to, but you are allowed to use the tourism-related expenditures for capital purposes. So where sales tax and transfers has an outright prohibition, this one allows you to do that. So summary of this. So you got your school, we have a fund, a checking account, the School Capital Improvement Fund, and in that fund we put the 2 restricted portions of sales tax, the 30% of 40, Article 40, and 60% of Article 42. Begs the question, what do you do with the other part of the sales tax that isn't restricted for school capital outlay? We put it in the Capital Improvement Fund. So if you look there, you see 100% of Article 40 is restricted for capital purposes, a portion for schools, a portion for the county, and the same thing with Article 42. Land transfer tax, 100% of it goes in there, and you can see the occupancy tax. We, by example, right now, when we talk about the high school and I believe one of the elementary schools we built, Sharborough Elementary School, the debt we incurred is paid for out of the school capital improvements, the sales tax. The COA building we just built, how do we pay it? That was a debt service. That debt is being supported out of the Capital Improvements Fund. And the animal shelter that we are talking about and the board has recently approved to move forward, that is being funded out of the land transfer tax. We also do 2 things here that if you recall from when we our budget process. We have 2 other funds that we've set up, a land banking fund and a school capital reserve fund. The land banking fund is a transfer from the transfer tax. So the transfer tax is already restricted to capital. The board and a previous board saw fit to start moving a portion of that transfer tax into the land banking fund to create a fund so that over time, if the board became aware of properties that were available for sale that had a strategic value to the county into the future, that you are creating a sinking fund to establish funds to be able to purchase that property. The school capital reserve is the same thing. An elementary school is probably $20 million to build. A high school is probably in the $40 to $50 million. We've established the school capital reserve fund to create a sinking fund so that over time, not that we ever would envision that we would be able to accumulate all the funds, but anything we can accumulate would certainly help offset any kind of debt that we would have to incur to build that building. So the board has, in the past, has seen fit to move a portion of the transfer tax, when available, into that fund so that we are pre-funding future items that might have a strategic interest of the county.
Mr. Scanlon, these funds, they sit there, correct? I mean, until we build a school or whatever.
They sit there and earn interest until the board appropriates them for the purpose they're set aside.
Okay, is it fair to say then, if someone comes up and they've looked at the financials and they say, well, oh Lord, the county is rich, you've got all this great big fund balance, one of the things that they're taking into account is these funds that are set aside to build a new school and to do the things that are necessary in the long-term future.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Long-term strategic planning. There are some other revenues that aren't as explicit as a sales tax and transfer tax to use for capital outlays, but they do have restrictions. Here's one: is the E91 fund. If you look at your telephone bill, whether it's for your wireless, your cellular phone, or whether it's your landline, you will see, I believe now it's 60 cents. The state sets the rate. When it was first adopted, the county could set the rate. We set it at $1. The state now has taken that away from the local jurisdictions, and they set it. I believe it's a 60 cent. You'll see a regulatory charge on every cell line. That money is generated. It goes to the state of North Carolina, and the state of North Carolina reapportions that back to what we see as PSAPs, the PSAPs. Basically what that is a 911 center that is recognized by the state of North Carolina to dispatch emergency telephone calls, and they will put money back in, and we collect money from them, and that money is allowed to help support the capital cost and operating cost of operating our 911 center. So it does have a capital element to it. This one's a little bit harder to see, but several years ago, at least back to 2003, the Board of Commissioners decided to start setting aside specifically a fraction of the property tax. It's about $274,000 a year that we put into, yet again, another fund for a specific purpose to help offset the cost of the volunteer fire department's equipment that they have to purchase. And the board did that. And as you can see, since 2003 through 2013, you get a sense of the various pieces of equipment that we've been able to acquire by establishing these funds and setting that money aside.
Those are actual expenditures.
Those are actual expenditures.
And say 8 trucks.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So in the last 10 years, we were able to buy 8 pieces of rolling stock for the volunteer fire department. You notice on this, 2 years ago, your Fire and EMS Advisory Board made a recommendation to the board. MOYOC was carrying some debt in their operating budget that was supporting a piece of equipment they purchased, and the FIAB made a recommendation to start having that debt service supported by this particular fund. So in the year 2012 and 2013, you see that $31,000 outlay. That's debt service to MOYOC that they used to buy a piece of equipment in a previous year. This is another one. A couple of years ago, and this is the general statute, you can look at this, the General Assembly added an additional charge to fees that you pay when you go and file documents with the Register of Deeds. That money is required to be put in, although it stays in the general fund, it is restricted on how we use it. It has to be used to support technology in the Register of Deeds office. So again, we have the 911 funds that goes into specific funds, the vehicle replacement. One of the funds that we can use and have used before is the general fund. It is not a restricted source, but as Commissioner Idlet had mentioned, we have strategically before saved up money to pay as you go, as you will, some of the projects we've done. And you can use the revenues in the general fund. We also used the general fund to support our ongoing capital outlay items like law enforcement vehicles that are part of the annual operations. We will use general fund to support those. I put the enterprise up there. Utilities, the water departments, the wastewater plants, if they have a capital project that they are going to undertake, they undertake it with the money that they have generated through their own user fees. So when we expanded a couple years ago the mainland water system, you're in the process right now of expanding the Outer Banks water system. General property tax does not support that. If you're not a user on that system, none of your funds are going to that expansion. It's strictly being done by the users of that. And the last one I have up there is state lottery funds. As of right now, we still have an allocation that goes to Currituck County of state lottery funds that has to go to support school capital construction. As you can imagine, it's a controversial revenue source. It has started to accumulate a balance at the state. The state holds this, and we have to draw it down. And every time the General Assembly is in session, that particular source is in jeopardy. In the last couple of years, they have actually changed some of the authorization for this and let it go to operations for schools. And they're also, this past session of the General Assembly, they were looking at actually deprioritizing some of this money that would go to school, to local government and school capital. So as of right now, it can go to school construction, but that doesn't mean into the future that that would hold true. Again, every year they kind of look at that. So those are the revenues that we historically use for capital outlay. Some of them are outright restricted by general statutes, and some of them are strategically put into capital programs that this board has done to help offset costs into the future. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions?
Yes, sir. Can we go back to the first slide that had the four?
Okay.
Wait a minute. When you had the four, those things right there.
Okay.
Did I understand you to say that Article 39 and Article 46 is available to the county, but we chose not to do that?
Article 39 is available to the county, and we did do Article 39. 39 is a 1% sales tax, and it goes to the general fund, and it helps offset the cost of operating county government, our day-to-day operations. Article 46 was authorized about 3 or 4 years ago. The General Assembly gave local boards, county commissioners, the ability to, if you wanted to implement this, you could do it, but it did take a vote of the public to do it. Currituck County has never chosen to put it on the ballot or to pursue this. A handful of counties across the state have. We haven't. So if you look
I
at
think
that,
the point to me that's impressive is that's something that we could try with a voter referendum, but we chose not to do it.
that's correct.
Thank you.
So if you talk to someone, you say that the amount of local sales tax you pay is 2%, there's your 2%. It's 1% of Article 39 and 2.5% that are Article 40 and 42. So our local sales tax is a 2% sales tax. And again, it goes to Raleigh, they collect it, and they distribute it back to the counties on a monthly basis.
We get the whole 2% back?
Not necessarily. Some of the sales tax is distributed based on your Currituck County's population as it relates to the statewide population. So that is an equalization of sales tax across the state. So it doesn't matter where the item was purchased. It's an equal share across the state. And some articles, it is a return of a point of sale, meaning if it was bought in Currituck, the sales tax goes back to Currituck. So it's a mixture of both formulas are used in those particular three articles. And of course, the state gets to take an administration fee off of it. So that
So the whole 2% doesn't come back?
So we don't get the whole 2%.
Yes, sir.
From an ad valorem tax perspective, Mr. Scanlon, how much was used to build the YMCA building?
Ad valorem tax? None.
How much was used to build the Moyoc sewer plant?
None.
Anything else that we have built as far as capital construction?
It would be easier to answer the opposite. The last time I recall us ever using any ad valorem tax to construct anything, we had accumulated fund balance in the general fund to help offset the cost of the Jarvisburg Elementary School. And that's the only project I really recall in the last probably 10 years where we used general fund to do capital, and it was a school project.
So from a perspective.
Historically, we do not do that.
So from a perspective of ad valorem taxes, generally, not everything, but generally it goes for operations of the county.
Yes, sir. And it will go to replacing law enforcement vehicles and those
Sure.
kind of things. Yes, sir.
So I guess, Dan, that because of the long-term planning, that's why Currituck carries very little debt.
Yes, sir. We have a very low per capita debt. We have some 20 years ago, we established a tiered program of how we were going to handle capital purchases. Some of it is pay-as-you-go. Some of it is an accumulation over time. Some of it is debt serviced. So we have a good mix, but we carry a very low per capita debt.
So ad valorem tax, which is property tax, is not going into the animal shelter either?
That was one of them.
It is not. In fact, to go back and your question, that was the way we manage our capital outlays is one of the reasons when we went through the economic downturn over the last 6 or 8 years that we were not in the position to struggle as much as some of the other counties. Because when you have a debt as your home mortgage, one of the first things you're going to pay is your debt before you pay operations. And so counties that were carrying a heavy debt limit that could manage it when revenues were up struggled when revenues went down because they had to cut services and furlough people to generate the funds necessary to make their debt payments. We just weren't in that position because we don't carry such a high level of debt service.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say that it's a reflection on the stewardship of our county manager and our finance department, and a reflection on the Board of Commissioners, I'll say it. And I think we've been diligent in how we've done things, and I think our county manager has served us very well in advising and moving forward and doing things that the community's majority seem to want and need. And so anyhow, Mr. Scanlon, I'd like to thank you and your staff.
I think credit should go to past boards.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Boards in general. I'm not just saying this board.
Right.
All right, Mr. Scanlon, and that will be available on the website if somebody wants to look at it? Or you can put it up there, or?
We certainly can make it available.
Okay. It's very confusing with all the sources of funds, where they come from, what they can be used for. And property tax is used for operations of the fire, the rescue, the sheriff's department, the school system, and pretty much all the property taxes goes to providing the services, not the buildings.
That's correct.
Okay. New business, board appointments. First item is appointment of Richard Labounty to Fire and EMS Advisory Board. We have I guess this is the fire department's recommendation.
Yes, sir.
So moved. I'll make
I have a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2 is appointment to Senior Citizen Advisory Board. That would be Mr. McCord's. Ms. Doris Balance.
She's up for.
She can be reappointed.
Yeah, that's my appointment's going to be Miss Balance.
All in favor of Ms. Balance?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second that.
A motion, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Commissioners report. Mr. McCord?
I attended Bark in a Park Saturday for a couple hours. I know we had a couple, or maybe for about an hour and a half. One of my kids had a game, Parks and Rec game. It was a nice event. There was a lot of people in the county there. I didn't get the opportunity to go to the rural park to attend the other event that we had in the county. I understand that was very crowded as well. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Mr. Griggs?
Nothing for tonight.
Mr. Martin?
Only to remind people that the camp out here honoring the 150 years of Civil War will take place Friday, Saturday, and Sunday right here at the courthouse. And please come out and relive some of our past history.
Mr. Idlet?
Couple things. First, I know it kind of conflicts with the Civil War enactment, but the Knights Island Volunteer Fire Department on, let's see, October the 12th, let's see, hold on a second, let me get the date, excuse me. Yeah, October the 12th, from 12 to 3, is having a dedication of their new fire apparatus. They've been working diligently to get it in service. They want to thank the Board of Commissioners and staff, and would like for anyone who can and to attend. They would love for, I mean, that's the purpose of it, is to bring the county folks over and thank them for what they've done there. And they're going to dedicate it in memory of Scott Morrison, the fire chief over there who died. His family will be there. We'll have a barbecue, and they're going to have hot dogs, hamburgers, that type of stuff. So they're looking for a good turnout, and I'm sure they'd appreciate it. Sorry, I will not be able to attend. I'll be leaving Friday morning, heading to Roanoke, Virginia for the weekend, so I won't be there. The second thing I would like to bring up is we were notified that Corolla Light Resort won the State of North Carolina Resort Community of the Year Award for 2013. I think that's quite an accomplishment. I talked with, or sent Don an email and just basically told him that him and his staff and board of directors ought to be very proud to be recognized, and I believe it speaks, I can speak for our county government, want to say we're happy for you and proud to have you and your entire community-like community, Corolla-like community here in Currituck. Everything about the community is a class act, and they're fortunate to have you as a leader. So I relayed that back to him on behalf of all of us. So, like I say, it's quite an honor. With that, I am done.
Mr. Petrie?
I have nothing.
Ms. Gilbert?
Nothing this evening.
I have nothing as well. Mr. Scanlon, do you have anything?
I'd just like to recognize, if the board has noticed, that Ben Woody, the planning director, is not with us tonight, not only because we don't have a planning item on the agenda, which I think he probably fixed that so he wouldn't, but tonight is his wedding anniversary, and I want to congratulate him and his wife. He's been married 7 years tonight, and he asked if he could have the night off.
You did give it to him with pay, didn't you?
Part of that, yes.
Good for him. He deserves it. I do have one thing. On Monday the 14th in New Bern at 1 o'clock, there is going to be a meeting concerning flood insurance and what it's going to do. It's going to devastate us coastal counties with what they're doing with flood insurance. And I do think that some representatives from the county should go if it's possible for us to go. I myself would like to go to represent Currituck County. We just had a wave of foreclosures with the economic downturn, but when this flood insurance hits a lot of people, that's going to be the next wave of foreclosures, and I'm not sure that a lot of people are even aware what it's going to do with the increases in the rates that the federal government is getting ready to impose on us. Of course, if they don't open back up, maybe that won't happen, but at some point in time, the flood insurance rates are going to go through the roof, and for a lot of properties, not everyone, and we need to have some representation at that meeting, and I would like for some of the commissioners to try to go.
Mr. Chairman, I would be glad to accompany you on that trip.
Good. County manager?
I'd be happy to accompany you on that trip.
Okay, so anyways.
That being said, I'd like to move into enter into closed session pursuant to NC General Stat 143.318.11 to consult with the county attorney in the order to preserve the attorney-client privilege and to receive advice and give direction to the county attorney regarding matters entitled Etheridge versus Currituck County and Swan Beach Corolla LLC versus Currituck County.
Motion a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Let's move into closed session.